Hey guys, Stock Saturday. How we doing? It's green week, surprisingly for me. Gold and silver sort of helping out with that quite a bit. Crypto sort of not doing particularly well. Some of the other stocks sort of taking a bit of a hit, especially on economic news on Friday, which we'll come back to. But you can see sort of on the Friday, certainly a lot of the new holdings sort of down 2-3%. Broadcom down 2%. TSMC sort of holding up relatively strongly, especially with revenue numbers. But yeah, let's sort of compare to the S&P is down 1.09%. So again, sort of that was partly on the Friday. Thursday was sort of holiday for them because of a president passing away, and yeah, Friday sort of took another little hit. It was down on the Wednesday as well. But yeah, the Nasdaq sort of similar, but slightly worse, 1.18% for the week. And I am up 3.1%, about 13,000. So really happy with that. Again, that is sort of partly down to gold and silver, which we will see. But in terms of news this week, we have the crypto miners, and they're sort of doing their end of year. It's the December 2024 update, but they're giving all of their sort of end of year metrics: 289% hash rate growth and 7,000 Bitcoin mined in 2024. I don't really think that sort of contributes all that much to price, to be honest. It's what they're doing recently. And yeah, 668 Bitcoin produced in December, which is a really strong number, to be fair. They've not been doing their sort of dilution to buy Bitcoin as the others are, and as such, it gives them some very, very strong numbers, to be fair. And yeah, total Bitcoin holding is sort of just about 10,000. So you're sort of singing Riot's praises for being at 10,000 Bitcoin sort of not so long ago. They're obviously at 17,000 now with their dilution. But yeah, 10,000 Bitcoin, and sort of without actually going and buying any, CleanSpark have got there. And they ended the month at 39.1 exahash, which they were targeting 37, so pretty good. And very, very efficient, 17.59 already, where a lot of others are sort of in the mid-20s. Sold 12.65 Bitcoin, ever so slightly more than they normally do. It's normally sort of 2.5. So yeah, I don't think that counts as them sort of particularly selling, but selling a small amount. There's a little note about the convertible notes offering. They had, if I recall, said that the push to 50 exahash was sort of basically already funded. But yeah, they've said this supports growth to 50 exahash. They might have meant the machines were already funded and sort of not infrastructure needed to put those machines in. Maybe this is sort of funding, purchases of facilities, whether they sort of buy an existing facility and put the new cards into it. Don't know, but yeah, they got some new facilities in Mississippi, approximately 1 exahash. It's not exactly a big facility. Tennessee, they are pushing on as well, and they're going to have S21 XP immersion miners. So they're the sort of very, very latest, top end cards, and that's projected to be 3.7 exahash, or add 3.7 exahash. And Wyoming as well, pushing on by year end, delivering 1 exahash, but should be a total of 5 exahash by the end of Q1. So they're still pushing and saying that they want to get 50 exahash this year, I think. So they're not really, or 50 exahash by mid 2025. So it sort of has been aggressive growth in 2024, and probably rightly so, slowing down this year, being sort of bull market, and basically just letting it do its thing this year. Whereas people like Hive are sort of having the big push this year, which could be potentially ready for the bear market next year. But we'll have to see. But as far as mining, and profit making, I would say CleanSpark are doing the best job. So Riot, on the other hand, continues to basically be frustrating. They're sort of taking the MicroStrategy marathon digital route and sort of diluting to buy Bitcoin, and I would say not focusing quite so much on the mining itself. So they produced 516 Bitcoin as opposed to CleanSpark's 668. I was sort of expecting Riot to be having the big push and overtaking CleanSpark on hash rate, and they're sort of falling a fair bit behind. Now with the dilution and purchase, they held 17,722 Bitcoin. Guessing they're saying, yeah, that includes 5,784 acquired this month. So, yeah, it's a big total, but, I don't really see them posting gains on that as EPS as particularly bullish. I would rather sort of producing Bitcoin and selling it at a profit so you can actually show real profit to the market. I think people will get rewarded more for that. But so far it seems the MicroStrategy route, sort of when Bitcoin goes up, has been doing really, really well. So yeah, maybe having one of each isn't so bad. But hash rate wise, things have barely moved at all. Deployed hash rate among the three sites has increased 0.7, so not particularly good. Some of this is replacing old machines, I suppose. So yeah, operating hash rate, Rockdale is up 0.8, Corsicana 0.2. I mean, I thought they were pushing on at Corsicana, but 0.2 in a month. And Kentucky was 0.6 up. So yeah, what is that? 1.6 exahash up for the month. Not particularly promising. Power credits and demand response credits, not too much. 1 million, sort of in the winter. I think that's more a summer thing when you sort of scale back. And yeah, all that makes all in power cost sort of on the slightly higher side. Kentucky at 4.6 cents, which is sort of relatively high. And as I say, them spending sort of their money on buying Bitcoin as opposed to buying new, maybe the latest rigs and sort of pushing on with their expansion using the latest rigs means fleet efficiency is 21.9 as opposed to sort of in the 17s from CleanSpark. And you have this new line at the bottom, amount of Bitcoin per 1 million diluted shares outstanding. So that's increased from 31.6 to 44. That's more a MicroStrategy fake yield type thing, I would say. You value the whole company, sort of 17,000 Bitcoin and, total number of shares outstanding. Or, compared to the market cap, I don't count this as sort of Bitcoin per share going up. Like, that isn't what the business is about. But yeah, they're, going the MicroStrategy route. Haven't really, I don't think, updated their graph here. So they're still showing 37 exahash by Q2. So yeah, they're projecting being lower than CleanSpark in 6 months, basically. CleanSpark already at 39. They're saying 37 in 6 months. CleanSpark are saying they're hoping to be at 50 by the end of Q2. Q3, September time at 38.4. So, and then a sort of a bigger push towards the end of next year and 2026. But yeah, again, it's sort of a bit like Hive, like aggressively expanding through the bear market. Kind of think, why not be sort of doing it last year and sort of in the early parts of this year? But there you go. We'll have to see. I'm not planning on holding these certainly into 2026 and probably not all of this year. And lastly, we have Hive Digital. So yeah, fast becoming sort of a less relevant miner on the global scale. Sort of if you saw my Bitcoin video last week, you see a new Chinese company, sort of not even a miner, automotive loans company looking to push into mining sort of as a side business, and very quickly acquiring 50 exahash, where Hive are now at 6. So you sort of got core miners as their main business, going far in excess of where Hive are even projecting to go. But I suppose on a market cap basis, they still don't look all that dissimilar to someone like Riot. So yeah, we'll have to see. But very small numbers. Mined 103 Bitcoin. They now hold 2,805, 64% increase year on year. Yeah, fair enough. Mining capacity pushed from 5.5, reaching a peak of 6, and a peak equivalent hash rate of 6.3. So guessing they're still using maybe some of the GPUs to mine some other coins and then convert it into Bitcoin. But yeah, 6 exahash of main power. And operational efficiency, 18 Bitcoin per exahash. They're normally on the high side of efficiency, to be fair. And that is the Bitcoin holding is sort of well over half the market cap. So gotta say, fair enough. But they are at 22 joules per terahash, so slightly higher than Riot and well higher than CleanSpark. But they're still saying sort of 15 exahash by the end of 2025. I would sort of hope that comes a lot sooner. I think they are saying they're hoping to get to 12 sort of by the middle of the year. So yes, we're targeting a global hash rate of 13 exahash by the second quarter. So that would be good. They were sort of saying September originally, but by June, I would think that is not all that bad. No real mention of the AI side here as well. They do sort of have the HPC capabilities, as they say, but no numbers here. It would have been nice to sort of see that, but yeah, that's sort of the only other bullish side of them, is that they're sort of pushing into the AI side, but not in the same way that your core scientifics and people like that are. They're actually owning and operating the cards and sort of selling a GPU as a service, I guess, type business, or sort of AI as a service, them providing the cloud. So yeah, interesting, but again, not one that I'm sort of looking to hold much past sort of probably the summer. So speaking of AI, I suppose TSMC, we have a very strong end of the year. The monthly revenue numbers have come out, and we got 278 billion new Taiwan dollars to sort of finish off Q4. That's the end of Q4, and that was 57.8% up on December last year, or December 2023. So very strong. That takes the total for 2024 to 33.9% up year on year, which they were saying 2024 was going to be a sort of fairly flat year and sort of not to expect too much. Whether that was sandbagging, as they call it, and they actually knew it was going to be good, I'm not really convinced of. I just think they weren't expecting all this AI spend, sort of January, February. I think they were saying that flat year, don't expect too much, but they were at 215 billion, 181, 195. So I guess they would have known what orders were in. I don't think sort of people plan quite this far in advance. They would have been getting more orders throughout the year, and yeah, sort of going from the high hundreds to the high 200s, and 315 in October is really strong, and gives a sort of fairly good indication that the Q4 results, presumably out sort of maybe the end of next week or probably the week after, should be pretty strong. We've got October, November and December's revenue already, so I do think not enough people seem to sort of focus on these. Good indication for other companies as well, your Broadcoms and AMDs and Qualcomm, people like that. And Nvidia, of course. I suppose a great deal of this gain has been down to Nvidia. and we'll have to see what they bring. Their earnings always seems to be a key point in the earnings for the whole market now. They sort of move the whole market, being I think they've shot up to biggest company in the world again, sailing past Microsoft and Apple, but it is volatile. So what caused some of this turmoil this week? We had some interesting economic news. We had sort of EU CPI and that sort of thing for December, sort of pretty much on track, 2.7% on the core. US non-manufacturing PMI 54.1, sort of higher than expectations, and last month very strong number, above 50 is always good. So yeah, biggest sector for the US is looking very, very strong. Job openings higher than expected as well. And yeah, the sort of, as we keep getting every month, the ADP non-farm payrolls essentially, the stark opposite to the actual number that comes out on Friday, sort of lower than expectations, and last month at 122,000, but we will see on the Friday. Continuing jobless claims and initial jobless claims both low, so that sort of did indicate that maybe we'd see a strong actual payrolls number. And then, yes, non-farm payrolls 256,000, sort of expecting 164, and up from last month. Last month was slightly revised down to 212, so 15,000 down, but yeah, 256,000 is a strong number, and it's not government jobs for the most part. Private was 223,000 of that, so yeah, there'll be some government jobs in that, but private sector looking strong. And yeah, again, last month slightly revised down, but this is more than making up for it. And probably more importantly, unemployment was sort of expected to stay the same. I think staying at 4.2% would have been, pretty bullish for the economy. Not sort of, a lot of people have been saying it's going to rise to 5%, it's going to rise to 6%, and it's come down. So for the end of the year, 4.1%. That's looking very strong. And obviously off the back of this, sort of the dollar rose. People not expecting rate cuts quite as much anymore. Some people talking about no rate cuts this year at all, which is a stark contrast. People were sort of at the beginning of last year talking about 7 cuts, 0.75% cuts last year, and more this year. And we got sort of, 3? And then talking about none this year. Some people are even talking about hikes. So yeah, that sent stock markets down, and surprisingly gold up even on the Friday. So that was a bit unusual, but certainly the pound has been absolutely tanking. We're sort of not doing particularly well either, but obviously all of these numbers didn't particularly help. So portfolio wise, as you can see, the ISA side, sort of a lot of stuff was dropping yesterday on that news, except Equinox Gold, sort of people finally starting to see the value maybe. That's up about 16% this week and has sort of provided a fair amount of the gain. Kerr Mining sort of not doing quite as well, down on Friday, slightly up this week, but yeah, I think it's down about 15% in the last month. So not loving the rise in silver, certainly. Silver, they're more sort of slightly more silver focused now with their recent acquisition, and silver hasn't been sort of breaking out just yet, but we'll see. The crypto miners sort of still taking a bit of a hit. Not taking the Bitcoin drop quite as badly as I thought they would be. Sort of Riot still at 12 and CleanSpark above 10, which I was hoping for a hell of a lot more sort of a few months ago, but yeah, we'll have to see. I did spend about 500 quid. I've sort of got a small cash amount here and sort of just dripping a little bit more into Fresnillo, sort of expecting the silver potentially could start to have a good move. Maybe not go bananas, but I would hope for that. So yeah, I bought about 80 shares of Fresnillo, and yeah, sort of REITs and things not doing all that well off the rise in the dollar and rise in sort of rate expectations. So yeah, that didn't do all that well. Pan American sort of doing okay. KGHM doing okay, slightly back in the green here, in the red on the interactive broker side, of course. And then, yeah, the option side has been all over the place. So Riot and Hive sort of coming down, I think about 5,000 each. But Equinox Gold sort of providing a fair bit of the, well, basically all of the gain this week. So it was fairly in the red on them. It was about 22% or something, I think, in the red. Some of those admittedly have expired. It is slightly worse than this. I had some sort of Equinox going to $10 or more by next Thursday, I think, which obviously isn't going to happen. So some of those have expired. It's about 800 quid's worth. But obviously this is now a large position for January next year and January 2027. So we'll see. Himax sort of rising a little bit this week. Kerr Mining sort of, the options have been doing a little bit better than the stock. People are sort of more bullish about the future, I suppose, and these are fairly illiquid options. Sometimes feel like I'm the only buyer, sometimes on interactive brokers at least. But yeah, still sort of $4,000 in cash. I'm unsure as to sort of whether to deploy that right away. Kind of seeing what happens with the inauguration of Mr. Trump. So yeah, we'll have to see. But certainly leave your thoughts in the comments if you're sort of enjoying this volatile time, waiting for the election. And yeah, like and subscribe. See you soon.